Aloha, I'm Naka Nathaniel, editor-at-large here at Civil-Beat, and I'm joined by David Croxford, Croxy, as we all know him as, the staff photographer for Civil-Beat. And we want to talk about a couple of his iconic images that he's taken for Civil-Beat. And, Croxy, you've ended up in a lot of different, situations that, kind of difficult and tense, and especially this one here of this arrest. And what's it like to be in these situations where there's a law enforcement and, the back and forth that goes on?
Most of us understand that we're in a privileged situation, and any public area, the law enforcement understands too that we're allowed to be there as credentialed photographers. So even though we're allowed to be there, there's once in a while an individual who wants to exert authority. And that's where you have to stand your ground and say, no, I'm here on official business, so to speak, and go in to get the photograph. In this particular instance, we were covering the opening of the ledge in 2023. And this gentleman decided that he wanted to make his point known to everybody. And he stood at the back in the gallery and made all kinds of innuendos towards the Speaker of the House. And the sheriffs, to their credit, came to him initially and said, you can't do that. But then he insisted on saying that this is my house, this is our house, this is not your house. And so they started to ask him to leave. And at that point, most of the credentialed journalists were starting to think, okay, this is going to come down. So we all transitioned from being inside the house to getting outside the house. And this was, getting to a spot where I could get the photograph of the guy being taken away. I don't think we ever published it because it's quite an intense photo.
Yeah, no, it's very, very intense. Yes, definitely. You were talking about, getting into places, a little bit difficult. This next image that you took of the Navy jet sliding into Kailua Bay, sitting on top of the coral reef. Now, this looks like a very difficult shot that you took.
It's difficult in that I'm using it this evening in our pauhana, and I went to Google Maps and measured the distance from where I was standing to where the plane was. It's 1.74 miles. So it's quite a distance. And I have a system that is fairly small because our end product is quite small. It's not a print, so it doesn't have to be very, it's not a big print, so to speak. It's 72 DPI, if that means anything to anybody.
Yeah, screen resolution.
Right. Yeah, small. It's small resolution, and so the lenses are relatively small. But this was a 2,000 millimeter lens.
Okay. From
the turnout on H3, looking straight across the bay into where the plane was. It's cropped very slightly. That's almost a full frame on an Olympus camera. That is a micro 4/3 camera, which means the sensor is smaller, the lenses are smaller, but they do just as good a job. Right. So that's how that image came about. One of the things that you have to deal with when you at that kind of distance is, we have a lot of heat here, and the temperature gets up during the day, 80 degrees, and even on cool water you'll see heat haze coming up. So you have to shoot a lot and try and pick the ones that don't have heat haze.
Shoot, edit.
Right. Well, you shoot, and then when you get back home, take a good look at it and see what's clear, what can be cleaned up. And I don't do a lot of cleaning up anyway because we're photojournalists. We take it as it is.
Mm-hmm. I love the little image of the worker alongside the plane there on the.
That gives some context.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought that was one of the remarkable things about this image.
Yeah.
So, you talk about difficult places. Obviously, Lahaina last year. You photographed there, and this image of these vehicles is just it's almost without words. That's why we take photographs, right?
Right. It's it was the Saturday after the Tuesday fires. Governor Josh Green was there. one of the things that I always tell people when they ask about photography at this level is that we have access where a lot of people don't. And so on that particular Saturday, I was with the group that went in with Josh Green and the FEMA representatives and all the entourage that went with him. And if you didn't recognize already, I'm a little older than most people. So I take my time a little bit. And as a result, the group was ahead of me by about 50 to 100 yards. And this image came up, and I was kind of taken aback by it because we have the image of the cars that had been searched, indicated by the X on the bodies of the cars. And then you have, across the channel, you have the beauty of Lanai. And it was hard to look at that. People say, oh, the camera's a shield. It isn't. When you're in that situation and you come face to face with the devastation that people in Lahaina have faced, you come face to face with that kind of heart-wrenching emotion that is there. And I just couldn't avoid that particular photo.
It's a remarkable image. Speaking of another remarkable image, I gotta admit, I'm a sucker for the Hokulea images.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever I see the canoe in the water like that, it always just makes me a little bit happy. Can you tell me about this image?
I think it was June, I believe it was, in 2018, when she came back from the around the world trip. And once again, it's this idea of access. I was privileged because I was working with another organization. I was privileged to be on one of the Zodiac boats that traveled up from Sand Island. And we got out early. This particular Zodiac was in itself a trip because I think it was 6 minutes from Sand Island to Magic Island, which was a fast trip. And we got up there and there were all kinds of canoes and paddle boards and guys on stand-up paddling. My wife and I both paddle for New Hope Canoe Club. And so she was out on one of the canoes and had paddled up from Sand Island. I got the easy trip on the Zodiac. And when we got there,
it's kind of hard to hold a paddle and shoot at the same time. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I was up with a group of about 6 other journalists on the Zodiac, and the Zodiac circled the Hokulea. And this just happens to be one of the shots that I particularly liked. Initially it was overcast, and then the sun peeked out. And then once the Hokulea came in, we got dropped in Sand Island again, and I raced up to Magic Island and got some of the ceremonies going on at Sand Island.
Oh, it's an amazing photo.
Yeah.
And we can see so many of your amazing photography on civilbeat.org. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.